Well, good morning, fam. It is another episode of UnPublic with Citizen Stewart. My guest today is Sherri Lucas Hall. She is an educator in Georgia. She's been teaching K1. Is that grade K and 1 for 10 years? You taught both. See, and I always tell people that if I ever had to teach kindergarten, is the grade that I would teach. It's the only grade that I would teach. Actually.
I heard you say that.
Yeah, which I think is an amazing grade. The magic is still happening with the kids. Yes. But not only this, so Sherri Lucas Hall is also, in addition to being an educator, she's also been a tutor who has owned her own business for tutoring.
What I'm doing now.
And that's what you're doing now? That's your current work. She also is somebody who has some spicy Facebook posts every now and then. So one of the posts that she put on was about reading not long ago. She had a post about let's stop lying to parents about reading and letting parents just think that just a little bit of reading at home will make all the difference or whatnot. I thought that was provocative as a post. And also you had a much longer one about a superintendent who accused you of not being a great educator. And I would love to know more about these two things. These discussions that I have on UnPublic are with real people who can pretty much kind of, aside from their roles and their credentials and whatever, that part of their brain, that they could just let their hair down and let's have some real talk about education. And I would love often to talk about what we're missing in terms of how can we do better. This week, I've been fascinated with the home-school relationship, the relationship between home and school, parent and teacher, how we make that stronger. How come some of us think our kids are angels at home, but then when they get to school, they're not angels in the classroom. So where should we start? Let's start with the reading part, because in your post about reading, I thought that was a little bit provocative, just because, number one, we don't get a lot as parents. We do not get a lot of guidance from the schools about how to make our kids better readers. Maybe a flyer here or there, maybe something that's in like an announcement in an email or something where it says, here are 3 tips, use our library or something like that. But especially when our students start falling behind, I don't think that we get all the best advice about reading. So why don't we start there? What was your post about that you wrote about the reading thing?
Don't make me lie. I've written so many posts because here's the deal. When I left the classroom in December 2018, I had been studying the science of reading. I didn't know that it was the science of reading. I found elements of it. I started finding out how important phonological awareness was, how important phonemic awareness was. And when I left the classroom in December, in January, I found a group called Decoding Dyslexia of Georgia. It was in that group at the Swift School in Atlanta that I found out about the science of reading, and from Emily Hanford. I know you've had her on, but I had listened to her last, I think Hard Words was the last one maybe. But that was the one I heard in September around 2018. And so I knew about the science of reading. I knew it then. And I realized that, all of the stuff that I had been looking into, because I had been in the classroom for 10 years, all the stuff that I had been looking into, it kind of like clicked. It was a light bulb, and that everything that we were doing in the classroom wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough to tell parents that they can help their kids learn how to read just by reading to them at home. It wasn't good enough. What we were doing in the classroom, we were missing some foundational stuff for reading, for teaching reading. And I was blown away because I had a master's degree. I was teaching in the classroom. I had been in a classroom for 10 years as a teacher. I had been, at the school for 14 years total. I thought I knew what I was doing with a master's degree. They told me, all the stuff they told me about, making sure your space was full of reading materials and making sure you were reading to your students and filling the environment. All that. I was doing all that. And I was doing the extra homework to make sure that my kids were getting everything they need. And then when I went to this meeting and I heard Emily, I'm like, we're not doing enough. All the stuff that I'm doing, and we're still not doing enough. We're missing some real tools that they don't have that we're not teaching. And I was freaking. because
Mm-hmm.
what I realized was that all these kids, I mean, I literally start to see faces of kids who I knew exactly what they were dealing with. And I'd seen all these elements of issues and concerns that they start to show that they can't read and they may have dyslexia. And I started seeing all this stuff and remembering all these kids. I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. I've been in this classroom for 10 years and all these kids I missed. I didn't do it.
Wow. So it was hitting you that that with all your training, your background, your expertise, and your experience, there was still something that was missing, which to me is pretty amazing. Because you had that discovery and then you were able to do something about it. But how many other people had that same like issue and didn't know
Yeah.
it even?
Yeah. Yeah. And then not getting the help. That was
Wow.
another big issue for me is that, let me say this, there was never a time I didn't want to teach.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember a time when I didn't want to teach. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't start teaching because I had a kid at 20.
Mm.
And I said, okay, I can't teach because they'll make no money. So I'm like, yeah, I ain't doing
Like
that.
most people.
Yeah, I ain't doing that. So I decided to go into business. And that's what I did. I went into business and got a degree in business. I'm like, yeah, I can make some money. I came out, and this is when the first time I got mad. I came out with a degree in business, right? Got a job. My first job, they offered me $24,000 a year and tried to send me to
Wow.
Oklahoma.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah.
In business.
Yes.
Oh,
I was
wow.
so
Okay.
pissed. I was so pissed. I was so mad. Because I'm like, hell, excuse me, I could have went and got my business, my teaching degree and taught.
Mm-hmm.
So I went in late, needless to say, because I stayed in business and got the anyway. I got out of business and decided to, I go to teaching when my youngest went to school. That's when I decided to teach.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was never a time that I didn't want to teach. But when I got in this classroom with a master's degree, I just knew, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna knock this out of the park. I'm gonna make sure, because I had been in the school, same school now, for 4 years before as a parapro and after school teacher. So I was seeing the struggles. I was already seeing the struggles. These were our kids. A lot of them were ours. It was a Title I school. So I'm watching these kids and I'm thinking, okay, now that I'm a teacher, I know what to do, right? So I had the 4 years. I'm like, okay, I got it. I got it now. I got this master's degree. Okay, now I know. Got in there, and for 5 years I struggled. Literally for 5 years I struggled. I love teaching.
Wow.
Didn't change it. But I didn't have the tools I needed to understand how these kids learn how to read. And what I found out in a few years ago, when I guess in around 2019, when I first discovered the science of reading, I found out that this stuff is 40 years old. So I'm in this classroom, and then I started getting mad. That's why you see that's why the posts get longer, because I got mad. I'm like, wait a minute, hold up. You mean tell me I went and got a master's degree, paid for this to get this master's degree, went in this classroom, and I still didn't have the tools I needed to teach these kids the right way so I wasn't failing them. And I was mad.
That's deep right there. Number one, on so many levels, you paid for it and you got an advanced education.
I'm still paying for it.
You still pay for it. And you got an advanced education, an advanced degree. You would think that would be prep, that you would be prepared for the kids. This is something I want to ask, though. We've been talking a lot for about a week now, maybe a little bit less than a week, about the homeschool relationship. And when you think about, you were in a Title I school with young people that were not getting the best reading instruction, science of reading wasn't being used. Can you attribute directly any of what would be considered discipline issues or their engagement with school to the reading part?
You don't even have to. Yes, I already.
You do. Yes,
I've been studying this for 2.5 years now.
Yeah.
And what I found out is that dyslexia specifically has a component where a lot of the children have ADHD. They have social emotional issues, because this struggle for them, it starts early. It starts as early as pre-K. They know, the kids intuitively, I think they know that they can't do this. They know that it's not clicking. And like I said, I've watched kids do this and do this and think, no, don't do that. And they don't understand. So you got a kid who's been doing this since pre-K, right? They're 3, 4, right? They get to kindergarten, 5. They're excited about school, right? They see all this stuff happening and teachers trying to, and not making the connections. And the kid's like, wait a minute, these folks, I can't do this. So
Hmm.
let me try something else to get the focus off me and or get the focus on me so I don't have to do this work, right? So now you got this kid who's dancing on the desk, running around the room, talking to his friends,
That's the one I was
doing
talking about. Yeah.
under the desk, doing
Yeah.
everything but the work you didn't ask them to do. They go to the bathroom 50 times. They,
Hmm.
they
Hmm.
want a pencil. The pencil don't work. The eraser broke. The crayon broke. I mean, the gamut. And then you have some that have serious issues outside of school in their
Hmm.
homes,
Hmm.
dealing with all kind of stuff. You got daddy just got taken to jail last night. They came,
Hmm.
you saw all this, you five. They didn't take daddy
Hmm.
away. And now you got to get up and come to school the next day and sit in a desk and work. Are you
Yeah.
kidding me? Are you kidding me? I'm grown. And if I see my father get taken to jail, I'm gonna have an issue. But you're expecting 5 year olds that are dealing with that at home. Mom didn't come home last night. Nobody came home. I hadn't eaten. I got to go to school. Now, mom
Hmm.
comes home early, gets you dressed, and shoves you out the door. You haven't eaten anything. You didn't sleep well last night.
And the idea that you were in a Title I school, for people that are watching who may or may not know what that means, but if you
Okay.
don't know what that means, Title I is a federal program that sends supplemental money, meaning that it's not supposed to supplant, it's supposed to supplement the money you get for schools that have high concentrations of young people in poverty. So if you're at a so-called Title I school, that means that you have a school with a high concentration of young people in poverty, for one. It's also supposed to mean that they're supposed to get the regular amount of money, but they're supposed to get the Title I money on top of that for more intensive services or enrichment services. I'm only breaking it down that much because I had to do this last
Okay.
night on a show. Anybody listening or watching, you should be asking your district how that Title I money is being spent. That's supposed to be
Yes.
open. The budget for it is supposed to be open. And there's supposed to be a Title I committee in these districts by federal law. There's supposed to be a committee of Title I parents who get to look at the budget to see how that money is being spent. I'm only saying that because I was riffing a little bit off of where you just left off. You have a student that may have seen their father get taken away last night by the police. You have a student might be encountering other things in life that are challenges or traumatic. If you're in a Title I school, you might have more of that. So you might have like
Mm-hmm.
a concentration of that. So now you're a teacher in a classroom. I don't know
And I
how
had EIP.
you had EIP.
I
So
had EIP students.
uh, um, how many kids do you think you had in your class when you were when let's say a kindergarten class? What would be a normal number?
It was always 20 to 24.
20, 24 kids,
Yeah.
who may all be having some sort of
At least
experience.
half of my students were having experiences.
Yeah.
At least
Yeah.
half.
Yeah. And
And
this
they
is
were
what we
always
don't
a
talk
different
about.
range. It was a range of
Yeah.
stuff.
And this is kindergarten. You
Yes.
also taught first grade, but
Yes.
this is kindergarten. So how are you as a kindergarten teacher, when you're looking at these kids, are you seeing down the road what's going to be an issue, like for the other grades? Are you saying to yourselves, like, we're at the starting point here, this is
I,
the beginning?
I'm seeing the issues way beyond school. I'm a Black woman.
Mm-hmm,
I'm bottom line is I'm a Black woman. I've lived
mm-hmm,
Black experience. And so what I know from our history is that I'm in kindergarten knowing that this kid, if nobody gets a handle on what his issue is, he is not probably not going to finish grammar school, let alone
mm-hmm,
finish middle and high school and go into college. He may finish grammar school and drop out of middle school. But
mm-hmm,
if somebody doesn't get a hold of him and handle his needs, he is going to be caught up in the system, whether it be in the system of the juvenile justice system, whether it be having babies at 15, whether it be, just constantly getting in trouble. If somebody doesn't meet his need, and I'm saying he, meaning, just any particular, but there was more than one he in my class. It was he's and she's in my
mm-hmm,
class. I knew what
mm-hmm,
was in store for these kids. Not even talking about education. I knew what was in store for these babies.
mm.
And
You could
so
see it so early.
I had been, again, there was never a time I didn't want to be a teacher. So this was not
Mm-hmm,
something I didn't understand. That was why I wanted to be a teacher, because I understood it. Here, I grew up in Chicago. I live in Georgia, but I grew up in
mm-hmm,
Chicago. So I knew of Marva Collins. I had Black teachers in my life. I had lots of Black teachers. I went to Holy Angel School. I'm going to say it. I went to Holy Angel School. I went to Hyde Park Academy. And so I had wonderful Black teachers in my life. And, they only just fostered my desire to be a teacher, never changed it. And
Mm-hmm.
so I already knew what was in store for kids, especially Black kids, if somebody didn't get a hold on their issues and get them the education they needed. There was no
Mm-hmm.
question for me. And so that was my passion. But I was frustrated because in all the stuff I was seeing and all the times I'm asking for help, I couldn't get the help I needed. Parents didn't understand the seriousness of it. My administrators, had the whole school to handle. You can't just worry about one class. You got a whole school, but the serious issue was that what I didn't have that knowledge about reading in my classroom. And most of my administrators didn't have it either. So
Wow.
nobody knew about the brain science,
Mm-hmm.
about what
Mm-hmm.
you needed foundationally to teach a kid to be able to teach a kid to read. Nobody had that, and so the questions I'm asking, nobody's thinking that any of this is connected to the behaviors that are happening in my classroom. I didn't even know it. Of course, I didn't know it until 10 years down the line.
I find that really interesting too, because um, if you don't know that, but you see the same behavior in the classroom, you might assume that the behavior is directly related to who the students are
Yes.
or their condition, but there
Yes.
couldn't possibly be a pedagogical answer. Like, if you don't know, for
Right.
teachers that don't know,
Right.
Which is really sad if you think about the fact. So you talk about Emily Hanford, her work in uncovering this. It was hidden in open sight. First of all,
Right.
this science of reading was like an open secret amongst experts. So the fact that we have educators that are detached from the educational science that is being produced is one of our first kind of problems.
That's actually a crime for me. That's the crime. That's the crime being committed. Is that you're taking these educators and you're putting all these theories and thoughts in their head, but you're not putting the science, and you're not giving them the knowledge of the science so that they can take that into the classroom and actually apply it to these students. So they're going in the classroom without it.
I love that you called it a crime. I love that.
It is a crime.
Yes.
It is a crime at this point. Because 43 million functioning illiterate Americans, come on, give me a break. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, and we don't talk about it much because somehow mentally we break down K-12 as being completely separate from the entire rest of the world. But in the adult populations who all went through these K-12 schools, there are a high number of people who never read a book again after high school, right? That's important to to unpack that. The number of people don't read.
People that don't, they don't like to read.
They don't like
Even the
to
ones
read.
that don't like to read. Why would you like to do something that causes you pain every time you open a book?
Well, and the ones who don't read a book, this is the reason why I make it about a book. The number of Americans who never read a book again is really important to me because books are challenging and they make you stick with a topic for a long period of time and engage deeply in the text. The type of reading that people do is like reading about QAnon late at night online on Facebook and stuff. So they do a form of functional reading, but they can't do long form reading, which I think over time corrodes the intelligence of the nation. And that's where you have like a million moron march where people take over the state capitol because they done read online that Hillary Clinton is like, eating babies in a pizzeria or something like that, right? We need more people reading. And then again, because I'm thinking about these young people in your kindergarten class. And then I'm thinking at the other end of the spectrum, adult basic education. Right. You think about people who are in prison, the illiteracy rate in prisons is so high. It's like, I want to say 80%, 77, 80%.
It starts early.
It starts early. So that's why I was asking, when you see these kindergartners and they're having some issues, are you thinking to yourself, this is more serious than them just having an issue here? This could be a life problem,
That's always my thought. That is, especially when I see a Black boy, unfortunately. I have a Black daddy. So and I have black nephews, and I know what this society does to our men. I can't. My father raised me so that I understand very clearly what this society does to our men. Mm-hmm. I have no question. I have no rose-colored glasses. This society doesn't look highly on Black people, just in general. And so when it comes to our children, like this little boy that that lady made clean poop and tissue out the toilet. They can do stuff like that because they don't value our children.
Yeah, 5 years
And
old too.
so
I mean,
yeah,
damn.
so I don't have any kind of happy thoughts about how they see our children. I don't. And so when I saw these kids, when I took the EIP class, early intervention program, I knew that most of my kids would be on the low end. But for me, it was okay, I got to figure out what it is that's making them low, and I got to fix it so that they can have a better journey through their education. That was always my goal. I'm going to fix whatever this issue is. They're in EIP for a reason. People are chosen to put them in early intervention because they see that there's a problem. Okay, so I need to figure out what that is, and I need to go ahead and meet that need so that they can, go ahead and go through education and have a better possibility of success.
So before you discovered the science of reading, what were some of the things that you were learning that were making you successful in managing a classroom, helping to manage behavior? What were some of the strategies and the tactics and things that did work?
Jewel Dixon.
What's that now?
My mama.
Oh,
sorry. I am my mama's child. I don't play. That was just how I handled my class. When these were 5-year-olds, they came in and they understood that we are here to learn. That's just what I told them. We're here to learn. We're not here to tease anybody else. When somebody can't do what they need to do, we're going to show them how to do it, and we're going to work together as a team. And that was what my students knew about what we were doing at school. If they didn't know nothing else, they knew that. And they knew that if you get off track, I'm gonna call your mama and she's gonna help you get back on track. Because what I'm gonna do is I would call home or work or whatever it was if you were stopping my instruction, and I would give you the phone. I would say, mama, your baby, you need to talk to him and give him the phone and walk away and continue to teach. You deal with your child. I got work to do. And if they're disturbing my work, I'm going to disturb yours. And you're going to talk to your baby and try and get him back on track. And then we're going to go back to work.
Wow.
Bottom line,
I like that one. Yeah.
I was there to teach. I didn't have time. Yeah. I knew that these were EIP students. Bottom line is they don't have time to waste. They've already been pegged as EIP. That says that, okay, this kid is not only EIP, but EIP was usually those with behavior challenges. Plain and simple. That's what it was.
How do you discover that in kindergarten, though? Like, it's the first grade. How do you it's the first interaction with the child. How do they discover so early that you might need interventions and you just started the school?
I think there's probably, we have the pre-K program here. So a lot of them were in, there's a pre-K program here. They were able to do that. And then a lot of times I would get kids who had never been in school at all. They put them in EIP too. If you've never been in school, never been in a classroom a day in your life, they would put, I got a lot of those too. Had never been in school, didn't know what to do in school. Those were a lot of ones that would end up under the desk too. They just didn't know. So, but again, I wanted to do this. So it's different when you want to do this. This is what I wanted. And
Did you feel that like there were other teachers that didn't want to do it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Or had been doing it too long.
Who had been doing it too long. What I call like quit and stay. There are teachers that have quit, but they stayed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Just not ready for our kids and not ready for boys. Boys are different. And I say this to everybody that I talk to. Boys are different in a learning space. You cannot contain a boy like you contain a girl. You have to make sure that you meet him where he is and you pretty much entertain him, because if you don't, he's going to entertain you and the whole class. So you've got to be ready for the dynamics of what a boy brings, because they bring something different. A lot of times, I would allow my boys to stand up and work or to sit under their desk and work. And people will walk in my class and go, why is he standing up? Because he's still working. He ain't bothering nobody. He's doing what he's got to do, but he just can't sit still. And so I let him move. As long as he gets his work done, I don't care. As long as he's not bothering anybody else, I don't care.
As long as the work's getting done.
As long as he's getting his work done, and I know that he's understanding, I'm not going to bother him. If he needs to stand up, baby. This whole bathroom thing, no.
That's so
I
crazy.
told my kids, go to the bathroom when you got to go to the bathroom. They knew. They just get up and go. But when I wasn't there, of course, you have people saying you got to raise your hand. No, they don't know when I got to go. How am I know when they got to go? Go.
Yeah. You know what? And that's one of the things we talk about it so often. Are we preparing kids for life? I mean, can you imagine being at work, like having to raise your hand to go to the bathroom? Like, is that really what you want to teach your young people? I don't want to teach my young people that it requires permission to go to the bathroom. I'm sorry.
I mean,
I'm trying to raise free people.
and permission to
Um,
be who you are. That's
Permission
the
to
thing.
like, and something so basic as that is like, you need to learn how to regulate yourself at least that much early on, not need to have to raise your hand.
Right.
There's this bill in Tennessee that I wanted to ask you about. The
Mm.
bill is basically saying that a teacher can have a student permanently removed from the classroom.
If they follow 6 steps.
Yeah, there's like 6 steps. So if they follow these 6 steps, and I don't know I think the 6 steps involve like a warning, principal becoming involved, a parent conference, and a criteria for asking a set of questions that have to be answered before you can do it. But then once you've satisfied those steps, you can have a child permanently removed from your classroom. What do you think when you think about a bill like that would give teachers the power to remove students permanently from their classrooms?
My question is, why not teach the teacher? Why not educate the teachers on how to deal with the behaviors? Instead of removing those kids from the classrooms, the kids' behaviors come from somewhere. I read a book called Overcoming Dyslexia, and I've read quite a few books, but the Overcoming Dyslexia book told me that kids' behaviors come from somewhere. They are the kids asking for help. And if we are the adults in the classroom and we, see the behaviors and we're not asking questions about why they are happening, there's something wrong with that just off rip. There's no way that you got to follow 6 steps to get a kid kicked out of your classroom. You need to figure out why those behaviors are occurring. If you got 6 times to have that same behavior occur, why is this kid behaving that way? What is the foundational thing that's causing? What's the root? Deal with the root. Don't just put a Band-Aid over it, because it's not going to change the behavior. And then he's going to miss his academics. What's the point in doing that? He's at school to learn. You need to learn as a teacher and administrator. They need to learn where those behaviors are coming from and begin to address the need of the child.
This is you're probably going to see more of this, and this is why, because this discipline conversation has been on 2 tracks. One track has been like the more therapeutic side of things. So like in I don't even know if you call it therapeutic, but like here in Minnesota, there's a bill. I think there's a proposal to eliminate suspensions for kindergartners through 3rd grade, which you would have to say, y'all suspending kindergartners? And the answer is yes. The Minneapolis Public Schools actually put a ban on suspensions for kindergartners through 3rd or 4th grade. And something weird happened, like suspensions went up. And I don't know how that works. I don't know how you like ban something and then it backfires so badly. But what teachers have been saying is, in different circles, is that they don't get a lot of support, that you could have a kid put out for bad behavior and they're right back in within a day or two with no difference.
With a sucker and potato chips. With a sucker and potato chips.
Yeah. Back in your classroom again, like it not having been anything that they learned from. And you have teachers that saying like, listen, if you're going to judge me and rate me for how far I get in my work with my students, you can't make me keep students in my classroom that are disrupting. You have one that are disrupting the other 25 to 35 students, right? And it only takes 1 or 2 students to kind of throw you off track. So that's partially where I think some of this is coming from. And in Minnesota, there was also the teachers, the Minneapolis public school teachers were trying to negotiate a clause into their contract that would have stopped the district from taking any transfer students from other districts if that student had any discipline problems.
I know about that one. We had a lot of people leaving other schools and coming to our school.
Coming to your school on purpose.
We used to get a lot of behavior issues from other schools. Yeah. It's like we were taking in everybody.
See, that's what's so interesting to me, is that it's a known problem that people, that kids get squeezed out of certain schools. They get squeezed out. We also had a situation in Minneapolis where it was called administrative transfers. So they were just picking up students out of classrooms. If maybe you got in a fight, maybe you got loud with a teacher, maybe you did something in the hallways, like deface something or whatever, they would literally just pick you up and put you in a different school without telling your parents.
What?
So yeah. So we had kids
wow.
whose parents were like, "What do you mean you're going to Roosevelt High School now?" And it was like, "Oh yeah, that's where I go now, Mom." And it's like, "No, you don't. You go to Edison High School." "No, I go to Roosevelt now." Really, when that happened, right?
Dang.
And it was happening to black males. It was happening to black males. That's who it was happening to. So schools were able to say, kind of, "You're a problem. I don't like your attitude," type of thing like that. You're going to a different school. And this is what we do. This is what we do. I mean, this is the problem. Like, I see so many different angles on this. In your position, you're looking at kids that have problems and you're trying to think of how you could do better. I wonder what the parents on the other side of those same kids are thinking. I know they have
I would tell them. We had conversations. We had conversations. I wasn't going to play. I couldn't do this. I've heard somebody else say, and I've been saying this for a long time, a child is like a three-legged stool. That child is on top. You've got administrators, parents, and teachers on the bottom. If any one of those legs doesn't work, that child is going to falter, period. And so that's what it was for me. This was a kid, but I needed administration. I needed their parents to help me because they don't go home with me. And I used to tell them let's say this. I am a proponent of discipline, and I mean, as in, I'm gonna give you a whooping. So to keep kids from asking to come to my house, I tell them, if you come to my house, I gotta be able to whoop you. You can't come to my house because I can't whoop you. And they would start telling each other that. You can't go to her house because she gets whooping.
Right.
So, but bottom line is we have to have a joint. We've got to be working together. It has to be teamwork in order to make sure that a kid is successful. If any one of the legs doesn't work or is lopsided or is broken or whatever it is, then the kid's going to topple. And so I had to get my parents in with me. I needed them. And so I did everything I could to keep them abreast on what was going on in my class. And when I was in the class, when we were using Class Dojo, I was constantly sending notices to parents. I would send them, I would send them whole class to give them just extra things to help them, with their kids at home in terms of schoolwork. I would send notices to parents if somebody did really great. I'd send notices to parents if they were doing really bad. The Class Dojo was my friend. It was my friend and everybody else's friend because that's how I kept up with my parents.
I just want to let you know right now, and I put this on Twitter not that long ago, Class Dojo, you just hit my button when you said it. We got to stop educators from using 18 different platforms. We've got like 3 kids in schools, and the different platform is Seesaw and Classroom Dojo and the Google's Classroom thing. And there's another one.
There's a Remind.
Alex.
Remind is another one.
Remind and Epic. And
I know about all of them, but I didn't. The only one.
I know about all of them too. I don't want to know about all of them. We just parents. We don't need to. We don't need to be tech all-stars. There's one where they read books and it lets you know how far they've gotten in them. Right? Is that Epic?
Epic. So that's actually a good one.
That is good, but I mean, on top of Seesaw, and there's one where you get the grades. There's another one where it's like progress reviews and reports. One with assignments. Did you get all your assignments done or whatnot? I mean, man, after a while, you like an air traffic controller and don't have more than one child trying to keep up with more than one child. I'm gonna write a letter to Mr. Biden and ask him to pass a law that says we can only use one platform, just one platform universally for everybody. Yeah, and make it a good one because. But
you can do Class Dojo. You can take pictures. So you can take pictures of their grades and send them through Class Dojo.
Wow.
Trust me, I was using Class Dojo for everything. I would take pictures. If we used a whiteboard as an assignment, like during math, I would take picture of the assignment that we did in class, send it home and tell the parents, this is what we were doing today. This is what you can do to help your kid at home practice this skill. So I was taking pictures and sending them home.
And was that when you say sending them, was that coming through text message?
I believe it's either email or text. You can do both.
Okay. It does feel easier, especially since I have an iPhone. It feels easier, the text messaging, because it pops right up with your text messages and you can type back. And that's a pretty solid communication tool. It feels like everybody has either an Android or an Apple phone. So like it's easy. It's in your hand already. You're getting text messages.
Right.
Michelle Newell says, nah, Chris Stewart, stop complaining. These are great systems. Man, there's too many. There's too much great. There's too much great then. If they're great systems, there's too many of them.
Well, maybe they could use different ones at different levels. So Class Dojo could be for elementary, and then some of the other ones, more advanced ones, could be for middle and high school. Yeah. I can see that working.
You know where it gets like tricky is for a certain number of grades, your young people have one teacher. Mm-hmm. That's much easier. The one teacher, right? You interact with that one teacher, and you can form a relationship. It's when they start having 5 teachers, right? Middle school and into junior high and high school. Now all of a sudden, especially have multiple kids who have multiple teachers. Yeah. And you're like, did you get the math thing done, or was it math? Let me go look which one am I going to look at? So
I had 2 at the same time in school. They were 3 years apart. And so,
people can't complain about parents not keeping up if your systems are antiquated, and education systems are just all over the map. They're antiquated. One teacher uses Microsoft products, another one uses Google. But send you something in Apple iCloud, and listen, come on, y'all.
It's part of having kids. We know that when we have these babies, you got work to do.
That's not part of having kids. That's part of public school. That's what that is. Public school. If you get outside of the public schools and get into some regular schools where they get a little bit more user friendly. Oh no, we only use this particular product or that product or whatever. I saw something a couple years ago, maybe 2 years ago. Peter Bergman is a researcher. He did some research on what changes when you nudge parents by text message, and found very positive results, in terms of responsiveness, and it's just bite size enough.
Yeah.
And it comes in a format where they can act quickly. It pops up, blah, blah. Oh, we're supposed to do this week, or we're supposed to go to a teacher conference or whatever. Right. But so many schools are still putting the flyer in the backpack.
Well, my kids would come to school, and everything that I put in there on Monday would still be in there on Friday. So I stopped sending stuff. If it was certain things, I just wouldn't send it. I'd send it through Dojo. It's a waste of my time.
Our school eventually got smart and made it so that kids would get in trouble. I'm not going to say get in trouble because I don't want people taking this the wrong way, but they had a planner that we had to sign physically every night. And if they came back the next day without that thing signed, that would be a problem. So they knew to bug you at night.
We had that.
Oh, you got to sign this. But listen, y'all doing too much. I just want to say this about schools, because I'm complaining as a parent. Y'all want me as a partner. We're supposed to be partners, and we're supposed to be like, working together and whatnot. You got these kids getting back problems with the number of things that you're putting in their backpacks, books. The planner done got this thick, look like an IBM binder. Look like those. What are they? This Trapper Keeper thing. It looks like an IBM manual for the space shuttle.
Tangent.
Tangent. Right?
Tangent. Right? Come on, Chris. Come back. Come on back. Come on back.
I'm just. It sounds easy to say that parents should be on top of everything, and they should be, promoting their child's blah, blah, blah. But I do not think that schools pay attention when they start layering things on top of each other, that they see it from the parent's perspective, right? They're not making it easy to stay 100% on top of what your child is supposed to be doing. That's my tangent. It's my rant is what it is.
Trust me, I've heard your rants. I've heard your rants on a regular basis. There you go.
This is important to me. Don't call me a partner if you're not going to help me.
I understand. I really do.
Yeah. If we had one child, I think life would be more of this would be easy.
But you don't. But you don't.
No, we don't. And actually it didn't really become a problem, honestly, like I said before, until they started having multiple teachers. Mm-hmm. And we got to see that teachers have different styles of like, it'll be great with one teacher, and with another teacher, it'll just be like pulling teeth to get information or to find out. Like some teachers, you email them, that email bounces right back. like with an answer or, hey, thank you for, whatever. Some
Right.
other teachers,
It'll be a week before you get a response.
There are teachers where you could be 8 or 9 assignments behind in their class before you hear from them.
Yeah. A
Right.
committee at schools would help. A committee of parents at schools. And I think that's a possibility that schools have committees of parents so that their concerns. That's what PTA is for, though. That's what PTA is for.
I thought PTA
so
was just like to get parents to do stuff for the teachers.
It is, but I thought that that's where, I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe I'm confused about what I think. This is what I think, that because I was in the classroom, my focus was so much on those students that I really was kind of oblivious to other stuff going on outside my classroom. I didn't really start getting involved in the Board of Education until I really started doing this study about the science of reading. I didn't really think about the Board of Ed. I really didn't. It wasn't something I considered as part of the process of making decisions. I didn't understand where they fit. I didn't, because I was in the classroom and I was, paying attention to kids. I was focused on making sure they were learning. But there's a lot more to what can affect what's going on in the classroom, and it comes from outside the classroom. And the reality is this whole reading issue for me has become really big, and I see my way to getting some changes made by reaching out to the boards. And that's what happened with me. I started reaching out to the Board of Ed. I wrote so many
to
letters
get things changed more at a systemic level
for teachers in terms of making sure we're prepared to teach reading.
Yeah.
I saw that it's got to change from the outside. I couldn't change it from the inside. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I'm glad I'm on the outside now, because I think that I can make more changes and be more effective outside the classroom. As much as I love teaching, I can teach through my tutoring business, and that's what I do. But the other thing is I do it in long messages like you read. I write letters to people.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been doing.
It's interesting. In 5th grade for me, I had a tutor. My parents had to get me a tutor because they were at their wits' end and it wasn't working out for me like in regular school. And I still remember this black male. So I never had a black male teacher. So
your first was the tutor?
So my first and only were tutors, more than one tutor.
Oh, wow.
So all my tutors were black males. And I think that was on purpose. When my parents were going to pay for somebody, they were like, well, we get to choose who you have as a tutor. We don't get to choose who you have as a teacher. Right. So, but it was interesting to me. I would start making gains with the tutor that I couldn't make with the teacher, like with the full-time teacher. And it was interesting to me. Like, I think I learned my lesson from all of that back then was, number one, like, I was a learner. I could learn with the tutor. So a tutor, so as a parent now, and as a person who's in this all this time later, thinking about these issues pretty deeply, if a tutor can do it, right, and a teacher can't, that says a little bit of something to me about how we structure classrooms and teaching and all of that. What have you learned as a tutor from the outside? When you say you can do more as a tutor and with your tutoring business than you could have done as a teacher, how? Like, what are some of the things that you could do more of?
First, let me say that what you were talking about says more about how we prepare teachers. They can't help in the classroom because they don't have the tools they need to help. That's the bottom line. It's what we're doing to prepare them. That science of reading, it's not reaching the teachers as they're preparing to teach. So before they even go in the classroom, somebody needs to be making sure that they're equipped, and that's not happening. And so me being outside the classroom, I say that I can help better because, one, I've done a couple of things. I've studied OG. I got an Educator's OG certification. I've done this science of reading studying for the last 2.5 years almost. And now I'm taking letters training. And letters is language essentials for teachers of reading and spelling, just so that I make that clear. But I can do more one-on-one with a student than what I was able to accomplish in the classroom. I only say that because I didn't have the tools I needed in the classroom. With the tools that I have now, I'm sure that I could go back in the classroom and make some gains with students in a classroom as a whole. But I think that I have more work to do in terms of making sure that teachers get what they need. And while I'm concerned about teaching, I'm also concerned that teachers are equipped to do what we go into classrooms to do. And so that's where I'm using my voice right now, is to make sure that some changes are made in what teachers are given to prepare them to teach. That's what's important to me. I love teaching. I don't think that will ever change. I have about, I would say maybe 10 people that I serve. 4 of those 10 are actually paying me. The other ones are through an agency that I volunteer to serve on Thursdays. And so I serve about maybe six kids there. But the 4 kids that I'm serving, one is actually virtual. She's in Chicago. The other ones I tutor face to face. And so I'm in there where I've got a mask on. I don't make them wear a mask, and I'm able to one-on-one. I teach with a whiteboard, a dry erase marker, and some pictures.
Wow.
That's it.
Wow.
I've got a kindergarten kid he's a first grader, and I went to first grade virtually because of the pandemic. In November, he didn't know his letters and sounds. This is now what, March? He's now reading small words. He's reading literally. I was able to use the science and what I've learned to teach him those foundational skills. He's not perfect, but he's reading. He's excited to read. This kid has just blossomed just watching him. His confidence level has gone, through the roof. He was already pretty, confident, but with the whole language thing and understanding what he needs, and me understanding the brain science and being able to teach him in that way, his confidence has just leaped, just watching him change. And so just imagine what teachers can do in classrooms if they have the skills. And right now I know that a lot of them don't have it. They're not ready.
Do you think it's easy to teach parents that same stuff that you're learning, that teachers need to learn? Or is there a version of it that parents could learn?
I think parents can learn the same thing that I learned. I think it's possible. They have to want to really do the work, because it's not easy. Like I said, I've been doing this for 2.5 years now. My first book that I read was called Overcoming Dyslexia by Sally Shaywitz. That was the first book I read, and that was the first time I realized that a lot of the stuff that was going on in the classroom was because I just didn't know what I needed to know.
And maybe there are parents that are having that same situation.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. There's no way a teacher has the problem and parents not having it at home. They may not see it to the bigger scale, because in a classroom, it's not that one child in the classroom. It is 20 kids in the classroom. At home, you've got 2 or 3. In a classroom, we got 20 plus. So no, the parent may not see what we see. It's a whole nother space when they get in the classroom. They've got a whole nother other stuff going on around them. No, they're not doing what they may not even be doing what they're doing at home that they do at school. But I don't think that a kid comes to class and does something that the parents have never seen before. I think that there's always a sign of something at home that tells you something ain't right. Something is a little off. I don't know what it is as a parent. This is what I'm thinking. I don't know what it is, but something is just not right in what my baby is learning and how he's learning. Something's not right with that. And that's when you really need to start asking questions. If you notice it, ask the teacher. But the thing is, the teachers have to be equipped to respond to the questions. That's what we're there
and as parents, we have some old school stuff in our parenting styles where many people who haven't studied the science of reading or the science of anything when it comes to child rearing believe that there's just innately smart kids and dumb kids. There's just innately effort isn't what makes the difference. It's hopefully over time, there's been things that we have learned, no, the harder you try, the smarter you become or whatever. But the old school way of looking at these things is it's not a shock to you if your kid's not doing well, because then maybe that's just my one that is not meant to do well. You're not good at school or whatever. And you leave it at that, not knowing
that there's more possible.
Yeah, there's more possible. Yeah, that they could be doing more.
And I think a lot of parents they already have their own issues with school. A lot. Bottom line is, this kid comes attached to somebody, and that somebody may have had an experience with education that was not the best. They may have had an issue. Dyslexia is genetic. So if a kid has it, somebody else in their family had it. So it's that any child is able to learn. That's what I've learned from the brain science. There may be some extenuating cases where the kids need extra help. They need extra intervention. but it starts with extra instruction. It doesn't start with intervention. It starts with instruction first, not intervention. If you instruct the right way, you don't have to be concerned about a lot of kids ending in intervention, but you've got to change your instruction. Teachers have to be informed.
This to me would be such a valuable conversation if we are saying that it is important for there to be a homeschool relationship and for us all to do our part, like for parents to do their part, whatever, teachers do their part, administrators, students, everybody. This would be such an important discussion for us to share more than the how are you doing stuff. Like some more background information, like if we had a community of parent teachers or a community at our school where we sat and we talked through, teachers are like, we're reading a lot about the science of reading now. We're discovering new things. If this was like part of our dialogue,
a community,
like our ongoing, in the community,
right?
Our ongoing dialogue. Well, now everybody moves together at the same time with stuff that's helping kids. But really right now it's, I'm at my station, you're at your station. We don't get philosophical and we don't talk deeply about these type of things. We talk about yesterday's behavior or last week's behavior or this month's behavior.
We don't talk about the root of the problem.
We don't talk about the root of the problem at all.
And you can't fix it if you don't address the root.
No. And you know what? Some of these things too, we still have weird stigmas. So it might be stigmatizing to hear from your teacher that your child might have dyslexia. Number one, sounds like a big word that means somehow you're not normal. We
don't have to start off like that. We don't have to say your kid may have dyslexia. There's a way to talk to a parent so you don't scare the heck out of them. Come on. There's a way to be gentle with a parent. I'm concerned. I'm concerned about your baby. I'm concerned about your student. This is what I see. Give them facts before you tell them dyslexia. Because it's a big word. It's a big word and they don't understand it. So before you throw that at them, be gentle and start talking to them about exactly what you see, exactly what your concern is. That's
like a deep point. So a lot of times we might be discussing the leaves and the branches, but we're not discussing the roots.
Not at all. You're skimming. You're trimming the tree.
Yeah,
but the tree's root is rotten.
Yeah. Yeah. And how sad would it be if we stayed there with our discussion? Because as you were warning earlier in this conversation, if that's happening in kindergarten and first grade and third grade or whatnot, it's not like that tree is going to get better and bore better fruit by 6th or 7th or 8th grade. Yeah, that might be even worse when you're even more frustrated because you really know that you can't handle the material now.
And that's why they drop out. That's why I drop out so high.
Yeah,
they start to figure out, I can't do this. They get mad at themselves. And that's the worst part of it for me, is to know that a child is getting mad at themselves, thinking that I'm stupid.
Yeah.
And they're not stupid.
And they're not
It's not that they're stupid, it's that nobody was taught. They weren't taught.
Yeah.
But that's because the teachers that you've had weren't taught. And so and then of course you get that path to jail. That path, it starts early. It starts as early as 4th and 5th grade.
Wow.
We know about the whole reality that they build prison systems based on 3rd grade scores. That wasn't made up. But that comes from the reality that our kids are not being properly prepared, or taught, because teachers don't know. They don't know. They don't have the knowledge. So we have to start there. We have to make sure they have what they need to give the teachers have to have the skills they need to make sure that they're teaching these students, so that they don't think that they're stupid, so that they understand I'm not stupid. My brain thinks differently. And I've got to practice the skills that will help my brain to process words so that I can read.
This is what it's so important to me that parents get this information. When I say that I'm an activist, usually I say like I'm an education activist or an ed activist. But in truth, I'm like a parental activist, because mine came out of a parent. It came out of me being a parent myself, and wanting to activate other parents. Part of that is based upon this conversation that we're having, that states are passing bills right now. I haven't seen a science of reading bill yet, but what I've seen is all these other trim the tree bills, like discipline bills, or to,
pulling kids out of class bills.
Or these more punitive things. And even if they're not punitive, they're like, they could be phony compassionate. Like, we're going to stop suspensions at kindergarten. That sounds compassionate, but Man, talk about like a waste of time for a bill. You're gonna take all that time to write a bill, write a real bill.
Handcuffing and pepper spraying children.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not going to help. That's not going to change that's
No.
not going to change her
No.
issue. That's not going to
No.
change her learning difficulty. Teach the
No.
teachers how to teach.
Yeah.
Give us the
No.
skills we need to be effective in the classroom. That's
Yeah.
what I want. Give us the skills we need to prepare the teachers to go into the classroom and deal with those students that have the struggling issues, those students that have dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia. Prepare the teachers so we're ready. When we go in these classrooms, we don't have these lofty ideas of we're going to change the world without the tools we need to change it.
And again, this is where I think all the activism has to be with parents, because every time you start trying to write a bill about teacher prep, anytime you start trying to change standards or prep or requirements, the educational establishment is deep and strong and very politically connected and has a ton of money. So anytime you start trying to approach these things, the resistance is amazing. The resistance is thorough and resolute. You will not change such and such. First of all, let's just start with the fact that colleges of educations are cash cows for colleges. They're a catch-all that anybody can get into and go through, where it's not, you can't say the same for the School of Engineering. Can't say the same for the pre-med programs or anything else. So they're a cash cow because basically you have a wide funnel that you could take a lot of people in. So when people start trying to mess with how you administrate that cash cow, you're messing with their money. That's almost like messing with their sports programs at the college level. You don't want to mess with that.
Aren't we messing with money when we talk about imprisoning kids that haven't learned how to read?
I mean, listen, the colleges of education are like, not my problem. Our business is turning out teachers, and oftentimes teachers who can't pass the state test and the praxis to become teachers for licensure. So then what do we do in those cases? We start trying to take away the licensure and the test. We're not talking about how we improve the science, the understanding of the science. We're talking about how can we make it easier and easier and easier and easier for somebody to pay you money so that you can put them into teaching.
So that's
really what we're talking about. That's how we're treating it. Yeah. Not treating it as a profession.
Right.
And when you talk about things like the prison population, those other things, for a person who's running college education that's doing good money, like they're kind of like, that's not my, I mean, sure, we care about that.
That's what happens when we fail our students. Yeah. That's what happens ultimately with these children that we fail, that we pass on through grades, and we know they're not reading. We know that it's not like we don't know. We know this kid can't read. But I'm gonna move them on to fourth grade. Really?
Yeah.
And then they get to middle school and you're confused why they can't work.
But you do that with teachers. You do that with teachers, like you pass along teachers through the college ed program and then let them take the test multiple times to show that they have the knowledge to teach or whatnot. And you still pass them along. And the ones who do very well, honestly, it's just weird how they show up in the schools with the most affluent white kids. And the ones who don't do as well, it's just amazing how they show up in the Title I schools. Now, I do want to say this. This is not, no one should ever confuse me when I'm saying what I just said as saying that the teachers in the Title I schools are somehow, many of these teachers I'm talking about start out in those schools, and as they get seniority, they gravitate more and more and more to white schools over time.
They last more than 3 years.
They don't.
Title I school, 3 to 5 years. That's
in our district, it was 2 years tops. Like in some cases, it was a year that gave them enough seniority to kind of move to another level of school. Right.
I've seen it.
So there are teachers who stayed in those Title I schools over a period of years who became much more. They had more pedagogical knowledge than even the superintendent in cases because they stuck with those schools. And teachers of color are more likely to stick in those schools than white teachers are. So I just want to clear up a few things so I don't get email here. I was getting trolled today. I was getting trolled by Michelle
Johnson.
Newell. No, Michelle Johnson came after me too. But she wasn't as bad today. She had a comment earlier today, was like, is it really a thing, the homeschool relationship? is something that's uniquely American. It's like she was saying her friends in other countries don't talk about it that way, like, you know, the homeschool connection. In a lot of countries, it's just you have so much respect for the teaching profession or whatnot that you don't question anything that they do. I don't know about those countries. Like, I don't know, like you could come here from another country preaching that madness if you want to, but the United States of America has a very specific relationship with its races, like the differences in races. So I can't talk to you about what goes down in Mexico or India, but I can tell you this much. This country has had a uniquely bad relationship with people of color when it comes to education.
Yes.
So if you're going to have my kid in there, excuse me, and you're going to generate income off of my child's head count, my children's head count, then yeah, we better be in a partnership, because I'm you know, I got money associated with these three young people, and I'm not going to act broke. I'm not going to have you treat me like I'm some charity case. I don't pay an insignificant amount of taxes, and you're raising money on the head count of my children. So you better be putting something in their head if you want them in your head count, because you don't get just the body, you know. Anyways, my soapbox of the day. I should have a banner that goes by soapbox of the day.
Yes, you do. You do need that.
You know, I appreciate you coming on short notice and having this discussion. I hope you come back and we can keep talking. I would love to learn more even about the tutoring business. Yeah, you are in the comments. I see you. I'm always like, okay, we're gonna bring her on because she's in the comments. I think this one thing that you do, though, this tutoring, didn't hit me before how important this is just in general. I hadn't really put two and two together that even in my own story, that's what saved me in some way. School didn't do it, like the classroom didn't do it. Getting me those black male tutors who were sharp, like one was a mathematician and a couple of others were just generalists. They knew how to do school, was a saving grace for me. And
you think seeing yourself in them maybe helped you? Just the fact that they were black men?
I think it was a contrast between having either bougie black female teachers who disregarded us because it was a class-based disregard, or racist ass white teachers who we just knew from day one that we were like prisoners in their classrooms, versus dealing with a brother who was like talking to you as a peer or as a regular, as a familiar person, like a family type person, who also you could look at and say, oh, damn, he's it as hell. Right. Like it was the example part. Like, oh, damn, you do this math for real, huh? You know, like, wow, you know, if you hadn't been exposed, if I had not been exposed to that, for instance, if my parents hadn't been smart enough to say, first of all, my parents were by black people, period. So if you were going to get anything, it was going to be a black person, right? Black accountant, black tutor, black whatever. But I'm thinking like right now with remote learning, how important that could be, how helpful and important it could be to have an army of tutors, like a nation of tutors, especially black male tutors, but just in general, period. Ones who could supplement, supplant, and even replace what's not going well with the district stuff.
That's why I did it.
Yeah.
I started it in February of 2020. The pandemic had just hit.
Wow.
And I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I have to. Yeah. Because I now that I know, and that was my thing. Now that I know what it was that I struggled with, now that I know why I couldn't teach them, now that I have the skills that I needed in the classroom, I need to try and find a way to help. And I need to try and find a way to help a lot of people without the restrictions of what the district is going to tell me to do. Because clearly the district does not know, because they haven't made any changes. And so I'm like, I'm not going back into a school to do it their way. I have to do it in the way that I know, one, the brain science says is how they learn. I have to do it that way. And I needed to do it in a way that, you know, I could control. And in my own business, you can't tell me what tools I need to use. I love it. Works.
How can people reach you?
It's Designed to Teach Tutoring Services. I have a Facebook page. I don't have anything else at the moment. They can go straight to my Facebook page. They can email me from there. And I think my phone number is on there. But it's designed to Teach Tutoring Services.
All right. Well, thank you again for coming on. Thanking for
Thank you.
everybody for watching and being so active in the comments section. Usually Sherri Lucas Hall is our guest today, but usually she's in the comments. So you'll probably see her in the comments again soon. Find her on Facebook at Design to Teach, a Facebook page that she has for her tutoring services. And also, I just would like to say that we need to keep this conversation going and be in community with each other around it, not just like, one-offs. We need to be in community, because things like the science of reading, things like having a 360 view on that child in school. I could do better as a parent. An educator listening or watching this might be able to do better as an educator, but we can glean insights together. Right. And then strengthen this support system that we have for young people. No one's going to do it by themselves. No heroic teacher, no heroic parent, no heroic superintendent is going to do it alone. We're in a real problem scenario. We have millions of kids that are not getting what they need through remote learning. Many of those kids weren't getting what they needed from the classroom before remote learning.
Exactly.
So we need to just do better all the way around. And I'm talking white, black, Puerto Rican, everybody, just to freaking, we need everybody on course when it comes to making sure that young people are getting all that they need. So
absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Let's
keep working together.